Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we dream up the weirdest situations and present them in semi-coherent fashion for an unparalleled auditory experience. And fights and stuff. This week, Doc Brown and Marty McFly versus the T-1000. That was like our theme song, but whatever.
Do you want to try a cover of that song on your pan flute?
Oh, god damn it! I wish I could, but I can't find it.
You can't find it? Or your train whistle or whatever you were using before?
Well, that's just one single.
Hell yeah.
Okay, this is going off the rails. It's funny because it's a train whistle. The year is 1995. The city is Los Angeles. On the outskirts of Los Angeles, a sudden flash of lightning and smoke appears from thin air, willing into existence a car so bizarre, even its low-numbered speedometer wasn't sure what to do with it over 85 miles per hour, which is clearly the logic behind why the car is perfect to time travel in. That's a fun DeLorean fact, everyone should look it up. Driving out of the desert and onto the nearest concrete artery into Los Angeles are Doc Brown and Marty McFly. One is a time travel inventor genius, and one a skateboarding everyman, fashionably questioning our perception of puffy vests. Doc, wanting to blend in the 90s LA they happen to find themselves in, pulls the DeLorean into a covered parking lot where both he and Marty wander over to a local department store for some clothes. To blend in, Marty has equipped himself with a slap bracelet, a Beverly Hills 90210 t-shirt, a jazz print windbreaker, and the newly released Air Jordan 11s. So fly. Doc solely buys a fanny pack, praising it for its versatility and storage capacity, because of course he would. Jumping back into the DeLorean, the two head out to coordinates discovered earlier that day. Previously that year, Doc had invented a new device out of curiosity, codenamed Timestamp, that scans the time stream, looking for other time travelers and pinpointing their entry coordinates. Their latest hit has brought them here to 1995 LA. As they drive closer to the coordinates, they discover it to be a rather large bridge. Looking through various debris and detritus, they arrive at a peculiar sight. The timestamp has brought them to a completely clean hole in a chain link fence, perfectly circular. Totally puzzled, the pair hears what sounds like a police officer walking in on their investigation. Hey, Harry! You back there? The guy's radioed me that you ate my fucking sandwich again! Wait, what are you two doing here? What did you do to the... Doc? Is it just me, or does it seem like this guy just suffered a software malfunction? Little do Doc and Marty know, this police officer is their mysterious time traveler. And also a killer liquid metal robot who happens to identify Doc and Marty on his need-to-kill list. The list shows reasons for their elimination. Doc, due to his invention of time travel, and Marty, due to being a progenitor of future resistance fighters at John Connor's side. This mysterious time traveler, the T-1000, suspends his current mission of hunting down John Connor due to this unexpected stroke of luck, and shapeshifts an arm into a giant metallic blade, lunging for Marty. Marty quickly dodges out of the way, and he and Doc run for the DeLorean, putting pedal to the metal. You know what? It's funny putting pedal to the metal because I believe the DeLorean has like an all-steel frame and it's like one of the heaviest cars like ever produced in its class.
Hilarious.
I think that's actually a real fact, but I don't know. Someone can fact check me. Whatever.
Is this what animal facts are like? But this
I
is
don't
like
know. I feel
car
like
facts.
I read that, but it's me. It's car facts. Okay, I'll continue. The T-1000 begins to run full speed towards them and manages to jump on top of the car. Again, using his metal arm blade, the T-1000 plunges it into the DeLorean's time travel guts and manages to damage the flux capacitor. Now, not only do Doc and Marty need to get away from the T-1000, but they are going to have to stop around LA to make the necessary repairs to time travel. Not knowing what this thing is, Doc and Marty do know one thing. They need to get the hell out of 1995. How do they do it? I don't know, but I'm willing to listen and find out if they do. Hence, why I, Liz Logan, am your chaotic space time-traveling judge this week. Also Carfax. Representing Doc and Marty are Dan Mulcairn.
If my calculations are correct, once my mouth hits 88 words per minute, Team Terminator's gonna eat some serious shit.
And Kit Mulcairn.
Nobody calls me Gallus Domesticus. Because that would be really nerdy.
You're right. No one calls you that.
I know.
Gallant domestic goddess? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, that's what I think of chickens, really. They are gallant domestic goddesses.
Representing the T-1000 are Claire Mulcairn.
All tea, all shades.
And Rafael Medina.
Ha! Hey, were we doing Smash Fiction? Shit, I was doing Smash Brothers, guys. No wonder you guys weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
Let me write something real quick.
To determine who goes first, we're gonna play a game. I am gonna say 4 fictional characters' names, and whoever says the one I like the most first wins.
Okay.
So, does this sound fair? Of course it doesn't.
Are
Who
they
cares?
all old men with beards?
3 of them are.
Okay, so are we playing Guess Who now? Did we just not knock down any of the faces on the Guess Who board?
Maybe I should eliminate the one that's not just for shits and giggles. I'm gonna change it right now.
Oh my god!
Now they're all men with beards. I didn't even notice! Kit! Damn you!
Bitch, I got your number!
Further rules. Don't say a name until all the names have been read. There's 4. Okay, so wait until after the 4th character, and I'll say go. Ready? Here we go. Kratos, Big Boss, Geralt, John Wick.
Big boss.
I didn't say go,
Damn
but Kit did win. It is Big Boss.
God damn it!
I just want to point out, if you said you have to wait till you say go, and then they don't wait, and they say it anyway, then they don't win.
Look, I was channeling Liz and her way of not listening to instructions fully, and thus I won.
So, now that our order is decided, Team Doc and Marty, your time starts now.
Okay, T-1000, you're very cool. Don't get me wrong. Everyone loves how Mercury looks. But your Mercury must be retrograde because your go-to way of finding someone that's not at their home address is to ask around? The second most populated city in the United States, and you're just gonna ask around. In Terminator 2, the only reason the T-1000 finds John is because, 1, he looked up John's address. Doc and Marty don't live in Los Angeles, and they won't be in any LAPD record systems, so... 2, at John's home, the T-1000 got a photo of him to ask people, have you seen this boy? Shiny Happy Terminator ain't gonna have a photo of Marty and Doc, and he ain't gonna get one. Oh, but what about the DeLorean? That's a really unique car. The T-1000 can find them that way. Yeah, they know. They hide the DeLorean like first thing in every single movie. They're not stupid, you're stupid. 3.
Jesus.
John didn't know he was being hunted, which is why the T-1000 got the drop on him in that arcade. We're starting this match with Doc and Marty fully aware they're being hunted, and so they're going to be laying low. They're also only from 10 years in the past, so the clothes they wear aren't even out of place. We're in the 90s, and Marty already wears denim like it's his job. Anyway, unlike the T-800, the T-1000 can actually be slowed down by a strong physical attack like getting shot. He gets knocked on his ass by several shotgun blasts that he doesn't even try to dodge, and it takes a few seconds of unconsciousness for him to fully repair. Here's something weird. Marty is a really good shot. He is not going to miss, especially if Hi-Ho Silver is just going to walk toward him in that stupid robot way that the Terminator models do. I'm not going to say Marty starts off with a gun, but they're in LA. It's a little bit of the Wild West out here. He can get one if he really wanted to. Questionably obtained weapons aside, when the T-1000 loses track of his prey, his next and only course of action is to find people close to his targets so that he can imitate them. Once again, not going to be a factor in this match. Doc and Marty have no connections out here but each other. If the T-1000 was capable of emotions, he would be ripping out his metal hair in frustration by this point. It was by the time he got to the mental hospital, I had seen enough that I can now safely say that your dude schlorps very slowly. Like, anytime he has to schlorp through some bars or schlorp into a new form, it takes several seconds. Certainly long enough for the people he's chasing to get a good head start.
Can you define schlorp? I don't understand that
Schlorp,
word.
you know, what like Mercury does. Schlorp.
This episode brought to you by Pornhub.
There's so many facts today.
To help out my competition here, I'm guessing that she means when he, like, passes through bars or, like, changes forms or whatever.
What I say, schlorp! I'm kind of thinking he might be horny for giving people head starts. The T-1000 isn't a monologuing supervillain, but he does do arguably impractical things. He allows the security guard in the mental hospital to see him, giving the dude plenty of time to scream for help. During the escape from the hospital, he has a pistol drawn and pointed at the T-800, But the Arnold Terminator is still able to fire off multiple shots with a pump-action shotgun before the T-1000 gets off a single shot from his pistol. If it ever comes down to a shootout between Marty and the T-1000, Marty's going to be way faster on the draw. But wait, there's more. Instead of shoving the driver of the liquid nitrogen truck away, the T-1000 kills the guy and ends up with the dude stuck on his arm, causing him to lose several seconds of pursuit time. And why? At the factory, when the gang is slowed by Sarah Connor's gun wound, does he just walk toward them like a slasher movie monster? And why? As a shapeshifter, doesn't he cycle through more disguises? That's how you use shapeshifting. Obviously, he goes through some. I'm not arguing he never does, but he keeps going back to that one cop look. For some reason, the T-1000 changes back into his cop form partway through his invasion of the hospital. He had a perfectly good security guard disguise, but just decides to shift back into that same cop form that John and the T-800 know and recognize. Even if the T-1000 gets a useful disguise in this match, history shows that he probably won't use it for long, nor will he be a smart shapeshifter by cycling through new appearances Doc and Marty don't already know. Face it, Skynet still needs to work out the bugs in the T-1000 software. By the end of this match, this robot's going to be wishing he was going after something as simple and easy as a target protected by a battle-hardened commando and a robotic killing machine.
For the T-1000, trying to find and kill Marty and Doc is going to be a lot like trying to find a needle in a haystack, except that the needle in question is able to move around, outthink you at every turn, evade you if you happen to stumble upon it, and will inevitably teleport away well before you ever come close to actually laying a hand on it. Oh yeah, and you also categorically suck at finding things in general. The T-1000 may be near the top of virtually every best film antagonist list, but it turns out that his toughest enemy is a teenage slacker and his wild-eyed scientist friend. The T-1000 just isn't going to be a big deal for these guys. Every Back to the Future movie hands Marty and Doc a seemingly insurmountable problem to solve. And then, just as they start getting close to solving it, fate shovels incredibly unlikely bullshit in their way that they suddenly have to think around. But of course, if you've watched these movies, you know that when life gives them bullshit, they end up tricking their enemies into running into said bullshit headfirst before skateboarding away. Here's an example. In the first film, they need to get the DeLorean up to 88 miles per hour and hit the connecting wire at the exact instant that lightning strikes the clock tower. So they figure out how to do it. Doc calculates the precise time and distance they'll need based on the car's acceleration, wind resistance, and who knows how many other factors. But then, the plan encounters a number of unforeseen difficulties, mainly when the severe weather knocks the wire loose on 2 separate occasions, and the two of them have to make some last-minute changes to their plans, with Doc scaling the clock tower to make sure the connection is made just in time. Marty, too, adapts to the situation really well, because when he gets to the DeLorean, it doesn't start immediately, meaning that he's several seconds behind the extremely precise schedule that Doc Brown had set up. And yet, Marty is able to perfectly adjust for this delay once he gets the car started again. It's incredible just how well Marty does in this situation. He could have very easily gone too fast and hit the wire before the lightning strike, or gone too slow and missed the strike, or not be doing 88 when he hits. But he manages to thread this impossibly precise needle despite needing a great deal of improvisation. This happens all the time with Marty, whether he's jumping off his skateboard and running through Biff's car to avoid getting squashed into the side of a manure truck, taking out Biff's goons with some precision sandbagging, using a stove door as a bulletproof vest, or using a hoverboard to help Doc save Clara from falling off a train. And then there's Doc's scientific genius, which extends into a ridiculous number of fields. We see him developing not just a time machine powered by a nuclear reactor, but also upgrading automobiles, developing more efficient versions of Presto logs, and creating both cutting-edge refrigerators and sniper rifles in the 1880s. Keep in mind, he creates a brand new steam-powered time machine out of a train using the existing technology of the 1880s. That's like being stuck in the era of Shakespeare and using the technology there to develop a Mass Effect Omni-tool. He's even able to understand and improve on the comparatively advanced tech of the year 2015. I have no doubt that he'll be able to figure out or intuit many of the inner workings and weaknesses of the T-1000 and come up with countermeasures accordingly. The two have plenty of options when it comes to lying low and allowing the overwhelmingly large population of Los Angeles, 3.5 million in 1995, to hide them from their foes' extremely poor detection skills. And Doc's abilities lend themselves very well to constructing alarm systems, booby traps, and quick escape routes should the T-1000 get lucky once or twice. And even if they end up needing to evade their mechanical pursuer out in the open, they are more than capable. Doc has shown himself to be extensively familiar with the inner workings of cars, and can doubtlessly hotwire any nearby vehicle in moments. And Marty Marty is basically untouchable in a chase scene. In the hoverboard chase sequence at the beginning of the second Back to the Future, Marty is pursued by 4 cyborgs. Seriously, Griff and his crew are all stated and shown to have cybernetic enhancements. Furthermore, they're each working with top-of-the-line powered hoverboards while Marty has to make do with a broken children's toy that he is using for the first time. He not only successfully evades all 4 cyborgs, he makes them look like complete idiots. No need to crack that sports almanac from the futuristic year of 2015. I can tell you right now how this match is going to go.
So Dan, in summation, he invented time travel?
He sure did, among many other things.
We're not getting into this. Great Scott! The only quote I know from Back to the Future! What an argument! Team T-1000, argue if you want to live. I don't know.
Can an assassin track down Dr. Emmett Brown and kill him? Why, yes. As a matter of fact, it's happened before. In the first Back to the Future film, when the Libyan terrorists roll up to the site of his experiment, Doc Brown says, "I don't know how, but they found me." And we don't know how they found him either. But apparently, after he stole their plutonium, Doc Brown wasn't great at covering his trail. Perhaps this is because, despite his impressive knowledge of science, Doc Brown is phenomenally absent-minded. He almost dies after he nearly forgets to get out of the way of the DeLorean the first time it reappears after jumping a minute into the future. He almost forgets to load up the DeLorean with extra plutonium before he time travels for the first time. And his attempt to create a demonstration in the lab of his plan to return Marty to the future ends with him setting his lab on fire. Doc's bumbling may be an excellent source of humor throughout the films, but when his competition is a little more serious than just various flavors of Biff throughout the ages, this goober nature of his is going to quickly turn from being a funny personality trait to a thing that will get him killed. How's it gonna happen? Well, after the T-1000 steals a police car and impersonates a cop, he's going to look up Marty McFly and Emmett Brown in his car's computer database for their complete criminal records. Then all he has to do is wait. Because the DeLorean has a license plate from the year 2015, when license plates are just barcodes, it is certainly going to get pulled over by the first police car it passes, because that is not a valid license plate, and this is goddamn Los Angeles. 90s Los Angeles at that, making these the same overzealous cops that sparked the 92 riots due to their treatment of Rodney King. As a matter of fact, every cop they pass is likely to pull them over, which will give the T-1000 regular updates of their location anytime they try to go anywhere. Once one of these traffic stops pops up on his computer, there's any number of ways the T-1000 can find them. He can go meet with the cop who pulled them over and ask them for information. He could go to the location where they were pulled over and say, "See any DeLoreans lately?" Because that is a pretty goddamn memorable car, being driven by some very distinctive looking dudes. Within a couple hours, he'll close down whatever motel they're holed up in and silently goop his way in through the air conditioning vent and perform his signature maneuver of an extendo sword arm right through the head. But that's just one way things could go. There's a totally different way that Doc and Marty could have an encounter with Mr. Shiny, which is that they go to him. The T-1000's all-time favorite move is to either murder and replace someone's loved ones or hold them hostage so that he can use them as bait. And Doc and Marty often have future newspapers, photographs, and other artifacts with them so that they can monitor how their actions in a given time period are changing the future. This might seem like an asset, but if they see on tomorrow's Hill Valley Telegraph that Jennifer, George, or Lorraine are going to be murdered, do you think there is a chance in hell that they are just going to sit back and let that happen? If Marty discovers that one of his loved ones is going to be murdered tomorrow, he will do whatever it takes to stop it. That's what John Connor did when he learned that the T-1000 was going to murder his mom, and Marty McFly has way more empathy and weirdly also more machismo than John Connor, and that's saying something. In terms of empathy, he pushed his father out of the way of an oncoming car in 1955 and let it hit him instead, a clear example of him being willing to sacrifice himself for his family. And in terms of machismo, before Team Doc and Marty comes anywhere near talking about, that was early on in the films and then he got over it, his whole "nobody calls me chicken" thing didn't show up until the second film. That plus part 2 Marty's newfound greedy side, which causes the whole dark alternate 1985 thing to happen in the first place, seems to imply that Marty is actually developing additional character defects as the movies go on, rather than fixing them. By the third movie, not only does he forget how time travel works at a very basic level multiple times, but he also doesn't think of bringing along a hat or water or food or some backup gasoline for his car with him on a trip back to the Old West. And by now, he is also somewhat of a wannabe action hero, even going so far as to giving himself the fake name of Clint Eastwood and practicing his hard-ass routine in front of a mirror. He's admittedly a pretty good shot with his pistol, we will happily grant him that point, because in a fight against the T-1000, the only thing that's going to give him is overconfidence. Oh no, conventional weaponry, what will our bulletproof robot assassin do? There is some evidence of Marty having character growth when he refused to drag race needles at the end of part 3, but I'd argue that it's only because Doc told him that his pride was going to get him into a terrible car crash in the future, and so he put 2 and 2 together that this was the incident that Doc was hinting at, and even given that, he almost did it anyway. In a far more high-stakes scenario, when there's more than just his pride on the line, and he hasn't been told how things are going to end up, you can bet that he's going in guns blazing. Even if he manages to pull his signature move of saying, "What the hell is that?" and waiting for his opponent to turn around so that he can punch them in the head, we've seen what happens when someone tries to punch the T-1000 in his head. His head turns into hands, and those hands grab onto you with his terrifying robot strength and never let go. I'm sorry, but the T-1000 is simply a threat unlike anything these two have ever faced before, by which I mean a threat that cannot be defeated by one punch from a teenage Crispin Glover.
Let us make one thing very clear. The T-1000, or T-1000, as he's known on Instagram, is a nemesis so menacing and tenacious that 2 previous Smash Fiction victors, those being Sarah Connor and the Uncle Bob T-800, can reduce their game plan against it to an easy-to-remember 2-step process. 1. Void bowels to reduce body weight via involuntary strategic survival-induced instinct. And 2. Yeet themselves the fuck over to Mexico.
You're too old for the word yeet, sir.
I will yeet. I done yacht.
It's yote. See what I mean?
I done yacht. It takes the combined efforts of both the debatably most badass survivalist ever put to celluloid and the archetype of the invincible killing machine to even stand a chance against Cyberdyne's most perfect infiltration and extermination system, so proficient at undetected murder that it brings tears to Big Boss's non-shitty eye. He is only defeated because Connor, who spent the late 80s and early 90s mastering combat tactics, tactical driving, and narrow-eyed piercing glares, had the assistance of another homicyborg who is kith and kin to our amorphous assassin. That and gratuitous plot armor. But, your most exalted interstellar arbiter, it is not these opponents our liquid metal murderer faces on this day. Today, he squares off against 2 real inept shitgibbons, a true pairing of both chuckle and fuckle, aliases Marty McFly and Doc Brown, whose asinine fuckery takes the whole of 3 movies to unfuck, when even a modicum of foresight could have prevented any initial shenaniganry. Wingus and Dingus need the assistance of a time machine to go back and learn things that most of us would kinda know intrinsically on our first respective playthroughs through life. Such as, if you have a gaggle of angry Libyan terrorists sardined into a VW clown van wanting your head, ass, and genitals on a spit, it might help to conduct your experiments in a more clandestine location than a mall and, I don't know, wear some goddamn rifle-rated body armor. Nope, it takes Tweedledoc 2 tries to plan even that far ahead after it was explicitly spelled out for him beforehand. And Tweedle Marty, needing to take immediate action in the aftermath of that moment, effectively fainting goats his way to acceptance of the sweet embrace of death, only to be saved by the inferiority of Chinese knockoff gunsmithing. Unlike Sicilians, when death is on the line, their idiom is not that of decisive action and efficacy, but that of ineffectualness, hesitation, and surrender. These are not behaviors which will preserve their existence when facing off against T-1000. In fact, Wang and Chung are bringing no skills they can effectively use to defer their termination. Sure, Marty can make 1 or 2 turns in a wide-open lot with no traffic, but he then immediately crashes into a barn with only about a mile's notice that he was heading into it. This is not the careful, controlled, and purposeful driving needed to outpace even a toddler on a Power Wheels Barbie Dream Camper, much less the tireless T-1000. When the vehicle chases on, neither Doc nor Marty will have the skill to outmaneuver their pursuer. Yeah, you say, but the DeLorean can fly. Game over, you say. It's not like he can commandeer an aircraft and give chase in a helicopter. Oh shit. Oh shit is right, son! The T-1000's pursuing ability is not limited to its incredible, if stiff and robotic canter, but it can and will yoink any automotive it damn well pleases. Truck, boat, razor scooter tied by jump rope to a Vespa. then outdrive and outhandle his prey with the experience and capabilities of a seasoned, grizzled vet who's too old for this shit. It's not like he would need it, however, because Dumb and Dumbass are not tactical savants who've been training for this scenario their whole adult lives. Marty, it is shown, makes a multitude of elementary errors during even low-stakes pursuits. For Christ's sakes, everyone knows that hoverboards don't work on water. Also, We Were Promised Hoverboards is a great name for my new post-pop punk neo-emo revivalist rock band. Doc fumbles basic manual tasks as though his fingers were buttered and well-broiled asparagus, which means victory necessitates a margin for error that they simply do not have against the Terminator. The success of their exploits in their films rely heavily on the ineptitude and incompetence of their adversaries, and this is a mercy not afforded them by the big T-1000. Finally, let's be honest. The T-1000, as cool as it is an unfeeling slaughter synthoid far beyond such human frivolities as honor, fair play, or the appropriate quantity of hairstyling product allowable for uniformed duty. As such, it is not above finding the DeLorean blopping, or was it schlorping, Kit?
Yes, correct.
Schlorping out behind the front passenger seats and waiting for the moment Beavis and also Beavis return to their time machine, solidify behind them, and finger spike them right in the coconut.
Oh.
With reasoning, situational awareness, and security as dump stats, hell, compromising the DeLorean is so easy, even proto-shit Hitler can do it. This is just a give me with this Terminator series. It's going to happen. Even if Thousy initially picks off only one of these soft-boiled potatoes, neither of the other's perception is high enough to see through the T-1000's mimicry, be it Doc, Marty, or any one of the anonymous extras in their vicinity at any given moment. No amount of cutting away while someone else plays a Eddie Van Halen-esque solo is going to save either Marty or Doc. Their fates are belied by a much more capable action heroine's one-liner. You're terminated, fuckers.
All right, now that we've reached our quota on saying T-1000 and time, let's move on to the rebuttals. I was trying to find a good way to incorporate Back to the Future or Terminator into the word rebuttal, and I couldn't come up with anything.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
So this works like this. Doc and Marty, you get to rebut. It's been a long time.
Okay, great. Thanks, Liz.
Team Doc and Marty!
Real quick, I guess I have to be Miles in this episode and remind Claire that Los Angeles cops in the 90s are not going to arrest white people for what those white people can bullshit as a DMV license error.
First of all, they're driving a sports car. That's a reason to get pulled over.
No, because then they look like really rich white people.
Rich people are the perfect people to give tickets to.
And additionally, if you see something that has OUTATIME, which is an 8-digit license plate on a state which only has, 7 digits, that might be a stolen DeLorean. That's probable cause to stop that, or at least reasonable suspicion.
Look, man, Doc Brown is the sort of person who carries a briefcase full of money from 17 different time periods in the DeLorean. It would make complete sense for him to have multiple license plates for different time periods as well.
He is also the sort of guy who would have those, but then wouldn't remember to put them on the car.
And also the sort of person who would also leave half of his inventions with critical parts missing so nothing works, and let's say the toast toasts for 18 times in a row, and at that point we have to ask, at what point does toast turn back into bread?
No, we don't. No one ever has to ask that
this.
question. It's a one-way street with toast. Claire, you were hitting on the fact that you believe that Marty's quote-unquote character growth in terms of like rising above insults about his cowardice, you think that that's not an actual character arc, that he doesn't actually grow past it, and you reference the thing with Needles. The moment when Marty refuses to race Needles is not the first or only time that he's shown to ignore someone's taunts. He refuses to duel Buford Tannen back in 1885, despite Tannen calling him yellow multiple times with a crowd watching. And like, the T-1000 is not the sort of person who like taunts people to get them to do dumb things. He just does not.
The other thing that could be is that he's also afraid of past Cowboy Tannen. And as we've already discussed, the Tannins are not the most capable adversaries, which could show that, he's not ready for the prime time that is facing off against the future murderer.
See, what that says to me is when he knows he's in a dangerous situation, he's smart about it and doesn't allow himself to be goaded into making a stupid mistake. They know the T-1000 is dangerous, he's gonna be smart about it, and he's going to avoid making stupid mistakes. You guys were talking about, like, the T-1000's ability to pursue the heroes with a helicopter. When he does this in Terminator 2, he's outdone because the T-800 puts on the brakes of the much heavier truck that he's driving, and the T-1000 pancakes his own helicopter into the back of it. He is so easily bamboozled by the most obvious tactics, and the DeLorean is so much more maneuverable than a helicopter, especially one made in 1995.
I would just like to add, helicopters are super cool, but they suck, a lot like the T-1000.
It still takes an immense amount of skill and inherent know-how in order to maneuver it even that close as he did. There is an intrinsic skill that he has, and not only that, you have the T-800, which also has all of this intrinsic programming, like they both were uploaded the instructions how to best maneuver these things like they're in the Matrix.
He can also, if he's in a situation like that, jump from helicopter onto DeLorean like he does when he jumps from motorcycle to helicopter in that one scene. So if they try to, like, make him crash it or whatever, he can just, like, schlorp and swap vehicles or whatever.
Oh, I'm so glad I made Schlurp a thing.
I love that we've accepted Schlorp into our hearts.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Team Doc and Marty. Team T-1000, make your time count.
One thing that Kit touched on was that
I schlurped all over it.
One thing that Kit schlorped all over was how the T-800, while the T-1000 is trying to draw a weapon and fire at him, is firing off rounds at the T-1000, which prevent him from being able to kill John Connor. May I remind the competition that Marty McFly is not made of 1,000-pound adamantium exoskeleton, which is essentially bulletproof, and that he is very allergic to bullets.
Yes, but he's worn bulletproof things in the past when he knows he goes up against gun users, and he's a really good shot.
Good, yes. Once again, conventional weaponry. Oh my, whatever shall we do against conventional weaponry?
Hey, it buys us time.
Yeah, it slows him down enough for us to make a clean getaway. And, like, we see that the T-1000 always goes for body shots when he has a pistol, and Marty McFly is an exceptionally fast quick draw.
We don't know that Biff would have hit him anyway, because, like, the only person who shoots at him is various Biffs. Like, even the so-called cyborgs you said were chasing him was just a different, like, Biff grandson of Griff, who's just as dumb as Biff, but just, like, wears
shitty.
a metal hat.
The shittiest of shitty humans. But also, the thing about the weight and the endoskeleton is that makes him not immune, but less susceptible to the physics of the projectiles. Marty, when he is hit, he is going to feel that. It is going to hurt like a son of a bitch, and he is going to wish that he got punched by Biff in the face 1,000 times over before the T-1000 cranks off another round. He's not immune to the physics of that because that's not how body armor works.
Marty is able to disarm a pistol from someone with a frisbee from across a crowded dance floor. The T-1000 is going to be lucky if he can maintain a hold on this gun for more than a few seconds.
Once again, shitty humans and the shitty caliber of their shitty adversaries is not at all analogous to the T-1000.
But the T-1000 doesn't dodge. So, like, if he doesn't try to dodge, like, then he's going to get the gunshot out of his hand.
Robot strength, supergription.
Supergription.
Oh, Jesus, I want that on a D&D stat.
If they hide the DeLorean, how are they getting around?
Yeah, if only there was, like, public transit in Los Angeles.
Oh, because the public transit in Los Angeles
Wait.
is so great. And stealing cars, which is another thing you mentioned, is a great way to not get pulled over by the cops.
That was as a, like, if they're getting chased by the T-1000 and need a car very quickly. I'm not saying, like, they're gonna be Grand Theft Autoing their way through Los Angeles. Like, stealing cars is a matter of course.
You know, cars get stolen a lot in Terminator 2, and I don't see any police pulling any of those white people over. So,
Yeah, I mean, so you would talk about Marty being untouchable in chase scenes, and I just want to touch again. The only people who shoots at him really is the version of Biff that's basically Donald Trump, as Rafael alluded to earlier, or the Libyans who try to shoot at him with their guns, and it is the only time in recorded history that a Kalashnikov has jammed is when, and that happens to save his life. But we see whenever the T-1000 shoots his gun, he pretty much always hits his targets, and the only reason that John and Sarah don't die is because the T-800's always there to use himself as a human shield to absorb bullets that are meant for them, but they don't have an Arnold there to take shots for them.
Also, Sarah Connor spending most of the 80s and 90s, as aforementioned, missing out on Vanilla Ice and Rapper's Delight, but spending that time learning the specifics of tactical driving and cover and concealment. That's gonna help. Marty, no such drive.
Okay, so that's not the only times that Marty gets shot at. There's that part in the alternate 1985 when he's on Strickland's porch and a group of gangsters opens fire with multiple automatic weapons on him and he's able to get out of the way and doesn't take a hit. You guys keep hitting on the fact that Biff Tannen and the various Tannens that they encounter across the eras are complete idiots and just total dumpuses.
One might even say buttheads.
One might, were they so inclined, call them buttheads. But Mad Dog Tannen is a mass murderer. He's killed dozens of people. He's a very successful train robber and outlaw. The reason that you think he's a dumpus is because he goes up against Marty McFly. Marty McFly makes him look stupid by comparison.
Not to bring everybody down, but, listening to a lot of true crime podcasts which spend a lot of time on such mass murderers, you don't actually have to be pretty skilled with a weapon or combat tactics to kill a lot of people. You can just be a shit stain. You can just be a coward, and you can kill a lot of people.
I mean, we see when Doc and Marty hold up a train at the end of Back to the Future that all they basically have to do in order to rob the train is get onto the train and have a gun. In the Old West, it was apparently that easy to get away with crimes.
I mean, when Marty and Doc look up Mad Dog Tannen in 1955 and they read about how he has this bad temper and this tendency to draw quickly and kill people, that implies he gets into gunfights, because we see when he gets pissed at someone, he challenges them to a duel, as he does with Marty, and presumably because he's still alive when he challenges Marty to a duel, he has killed a lot of people in gunfights.
I would like to agree with Raphael that you do not have to be competent or a badass. You just have to be a shit stain to kill people, just like the T-1000.
Oh, no, yeah, T-1000, complete shit stain. Don't get me wrong. I am on team shit stain right here. Not at all competent.
I think T-1000 versus Tannen. There you go. I mean, he's good at stabbing people who don't realize he's coming.
We assume that the T stands for Terminator. It could stand for Tannen. This could just be Tannen 1000.
Oh shit.
A lot of their action scenes that you guys were talking about are actually not that impressive. Ziplining down a cable, or the climax of the third one, Doc has to walk across the narrow ledge of a train to grab Claire's hand, or in Back to the Future 2, they have to steal a book from a guy, and not a guy with superpowers, and not from a safe or a secure facility with guards. There's a guy who has a book. They have to take a book from him. That's the level they're operating at. It's not on the level of a Terminator action movie type of stuff. It seems really intense at the moment because the rest of the movie's pretty mundane.
Yeah, but I mean, what those moments all show is that these two guys, when they encounter a bad situation, they plan extensively, and they come up with a really good plan, and often come up with, gadgets or materials that they need along the way. And then they're also really good at improvising when stuff goes bad. The T-1000 just doesn't track down his targets especially well, and I don't think that they're going to need to avoid him that much, and if they do, they'll be able to outthink him very easily.
All right, we're going to have to end the rebuttals here.
Uh-oh, I just realized what's going to happen now.
Well, it's not that bad.
You always say that, and then it always is.
All right, so now we move on to our very fitting lightning round, because that seems to be a theme between both of our combatants.
Oh,
the 1.21 gigawatt round.
Yes, exactly. Unbeknownst to Doc, the timestamp has unwittingly created another timeline, where instead of it being 1995 Los Angeles, it is 2010 Los Angeles. Instead of Doc and Marty running from the killer T-1000, Skynet has been reprogrammed in the future and has been sending back Terminators to help solve modern problems, like littering and helping old ladies with groceries across the street. It truly is a marvelous time to be alive. While working in Doc's new lab in downtown LA, an invitation arrives from a rather famous theoretical physicist, inviting Doc and his closest friends to a party, a time-traveling party. The physicist explains that his 2009 party was a failure and wants to try again this year. He has also decided to make it known to the scientific community and send out old-fashioned invitations because of the lack of attendance last year. Doc and Marty have always respected this particular scientist and decide to go, dragging their best friend T-1000 along.
Aww.
Taking a plane to the physicist's English home, they wait in the foyer until the scientist wheels in, speaking through his speech-generating device. Hello, my name is Stephen Hawking, and I have invited everyone I suspect may be a time traveler and would like you, all of you, to convince me you are from a different time. I have my doubts, but I also have an open mind, so please, do your best. So advocates, you are at Stephen Hawking's second annual time-traveling party, and you must convince him you are from a different time. How exactly will you do that? What kind of party games will Mr. Hawking ask you to play? What music will you have on? And ultimately, who will be the best time-traveling party guest? No stabbing, please. Since Team Doc and Marty went first, Team T-1000, you get to start this off.
My first point to try and convince them that I would be a time-traveling robot from the future is bring some stuff from the future that would definitely prove that hey, this stuff happens after now. And yet here it is. Those sorts of things would include a huge bag of irradiated skulls from Judgment Day, the T-1000 from the Terminator 2 3D Battle Through Time, and
there
I don't
you
know, how about photos of Hawking's tombstone and like newspapers from before Judgment Day showing how shitty the world was and how Skynet really did us a favor.
This is fucking dark.
Can we just establish so people don't add us? We know that in Terminator, in general, they can't bring anything back from the future, right? That's why they come naked.
You are correct.
But no, I'm not trying to denounce their lightning round. I'm trying to say, all y'all who are like typing in Twitter right now, shut the fuck up.
I would like to point out that there are multiple orifices in which the T-1000 can slurp things, all right?
And there it is. Boom.
Yeah, the TX actually hides guns and stuff inside her body, so I think he can slurp a bag of human skulls inside of all sorts of places. God. You know, I think after that, though, when he's talking about the future and, like, all these killer robots, people are gonna say, like, oh, wow, it's really terrible that there's all these killer robots in the future, and he's like, yeah, it's really terrible. And there's like, so, what time period are you from? Who are you? And he's like, oh, me? Yeah, sorry, this is just a disguise I've been wearing. I'm going to take off my disguise now so you can see the real me. And then he does his, like, shapeshift thing, and he becomes Abraham Lincoln. And he's like, yeah, I'm time traveling Abraham Lincoln. I'm not one of those killer robots. And they're like, well, how do you change your appearance like that? He's like, nanites. I got them in the future. So,
they could play Pin the Chip on the Terminator. Which, hypothetically speaking, it's a secret chip, but let's say, Terminators, though they will not stop until you are dead, but what happens after you're dead? Well, they gotta kick back, they gotta relax, and so their secret chips aren't so secret among themselves, and, they have to go and play some party games, so Drunk Pin the Chip on the Terminator is one of these games that they use to pass the time.
In terms of music, I think he's going to use his voice mimicry to perfectly imitate a hit song from another James Cameron flick, and that is going to be Celine Dion singing My Heart Will Go On.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you're really pandering to the judge right now.
The other thing that I would use to, show that I'm also fun, but also that I'm from the future is that I would use the voice mimicry to sing really popular songs from like the early teens and late teens to show that, hey, yeah, you know what? Music does get this bad. As, as it has always been complained about, so shall it be complained about. And it's like, that's what people oh God, you must be from the future. It just keeps getting worse.
Another thing he can do to just be a good party guest is at the end when the party's over and there's like a mess and stuff all over the place, he can do the thing that he did in the mental hospital where he spreads out all over the floor. But after he does that, he's just going to pick up all the trash and then like pull it into himself and just like form his body into like a plastic garbage bag around the trash.
I already told you they were helping solve littering, so this is a perfect application. All right, well, it really sounds like the T-1000 is going to be a great party guest. Doc and Marty, what are you going to do to impress Mr. Hawking?
I mean, they have a lot of artifacts from their travels. Like, they could just show hawking the photo of them standing next to the clock tower in 1885. On the other end of the spectrum, they do have a commercially mass-produced nuclear reactor that converts small amounts of garbage into the energy of a lightning bolt on the back of their car. That's pretty good proof that they have at least been to the future at some point.
And if that isn't enough, I don't know, maybe they could take Hawking in the DeLorean to any time he wants to go? Just a real quick trip. They'll be back before the party starts.
Liz, you said they have to, take a plane to get to England to go to this party. I would be surprised if by the time that plane touches down, Doc Brown has not already converted it into a time machine. That's kind of where he's at by the end of the Back to the Future trilogy. In terms of games that we play, Marty has lugged with him the Lone Gunman arcade cabinet that he plays in the year 2015. They also hold square dancing, which they did in 1885, and they even managed to bring back the 1885 version of ZZ Top to play the music from that movie, which is a real banger.
Yeah. Oh, and after their little time travel trip, I think a pretty cool game would be Tokyo Drifting with the DeLorean.
Okay, again, pandering.
I'm pandering to myself here, basically.
In terms of music that we're playing, Marty can play some music. There's going to be Johnny B. Good, obviously. There's going to be some Huey Lewis and the News playing. There's also going to be one moment when he gets on stage and he plays Radioactive, which is a song that doesn't come out for 3 years in the year 2010. And then when he finishes, he looks at all the blank expressions and he's like, well, your kids are going to love it. And actually, you are probably going to love it, but just in 3 years. So, yeah.
And he was wrong.
I knew you were going to make a comment. And why are the best party guests? On top of everything else that we've said so far, before the party is over, Doc is going to install both a hover conversion and a flux capacitor onto Stephen Hawking's chair.
Hover chair is just one step to becoming Professor X, right?
Yeah,
one more thing.
Excellent. Well, I'm gonna hop in my hover chair and float away from here into space.
Have fun in space. Oh, look at her go. God, ascending so beautifully.
Well, I look forward to seeing a page for Schlorp added to the Terminator Wiki any day now after this episode drops.
Get on it, Smash fans.
Yeah, this is for the record the fourth time I've had to watch Terminator 2, or shall I say got to watch Terminator 2 for Smash Fiction, because we had the first episode, which was, Terminator versus Predator, and then we did Sarah Connor versus Ripley, and then Miles and I had our bonus content, where we watched Terminator 2 and talked about why it was great. That was the only thing that was talked about, is that it's a great movie, and no one else had a differing opinion from that.
Everyone thought it was great. Be.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now we know why Miles is not involved in this particular match.
Because he
You're
loves
welcome,
it so
Miles.
much. He just couldn't stay impartial.
Unlike our judge.
Unlike our perfectly impartial judge.
I will tell you how hard it is to rewatch Terminator 2 when you're in hour 3 of your kid's 5-hour My Little Pony marathon.
Oh boy.
You couldn't just sneak that one into the middle of some of that cartoon joy?
I think I've scarred her enough with Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 7 and God of War when I thought she wasn't impressionable enough, but then there are things that I'm oh, maybe she is like a sponge and retained all that. So yeah, rather hard. More 11 o'clock midnight speed throughs, which is great about the PS4 because you can watch anything on disc at 1.5 speed.
Is that just how you live your life now, Raphael? Is just everything's 1.5?
Everything is at least 1.5. NPR and Ira Glass are on double time.
All right. Well, sorry you had to, go through recording this episode like the rest of us non-time travelers.
I know. Everything feels so slow. I thought I would have maybe an extra hour to maybe do this. But no, okay, so we're going to do this at 1.5 speed, which makes the pseudo Eddie Van Halen solos in Back to the Future real, almost Dragon Forcey.
Yeah, this was, despite the fact that Doc Brown is a very commonly recurring character in Extraordinary League, this is the first time we actually had to watch Back to the Future for a Smash Fiction episode.
Rewatching Back to the Future 1, it reminded me of one of my favorite jokes that you came up with in all of League, Dan, which is when Doc Brown is presenting us with the model of Nexus City. He says, "Please excuse the crudity of the model. It isn't to scale. I didn't have time to paint it," or whatever, whatever he said. It was some variant of that, and that was just the perfect... it was the perfect callback to a very obscure, dumb, recurring joke in Back to the Future. A movie which is, by the way, nothing but dumb, recurring jokes and setups and payoffs.
Yeah.
To like an Edgar Wrightian degree.
It's so fun. Both of these movies are so fun for very different reasons.
Yeah, I'm glad you appreciated that joke, Claire, because I get so inordinately proud of myself for the dumbest jokes that I come up with in League. Like, I base entire episodes of League, entire plot arcs of League around one stupid joke that I want to make. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. So I'm glad someone appreciates it.
So there were some pretty good points made on either side. For example, Doc and Marty are pretty quick on their feet. They're inventive. They know how to exploit a situation to their advantage. With the T-1000, he's very accurate with his attacks. Actually, honestly, this fight really centered around Doc and Marty and making arguments against them. I mean, yeah, the T-1000 can be bamboozled. Doc and Marty only fight flavors of Biff. I like that.
Flavors of Biff.
I like that description.
I hope that never comes to Baskin-Robbins.
I was thinking that sounds like the weird knockoff version of Fountains of Wayne.
Marty's mom has got it going on.
No.
But
I think it would be
the joke.
I think it would be My Own Mom Has Got It Going On.
That as well. Oh no.
Okay, no.
There it is.
Let me continue. Let me render my judgment.
No, go ahead, Liz.
Save us, Liz.
This is Judgment Day. The T-1000, is bamboozled, and there was an argument. Doesn't taunt them to cause them to make mistakes. But frankly, this whole fight was summed up in a quote of Claire's. Quote, "I don't know how, but they found me. I have to give this to the T-1000.
Man.
To be honest, after watching these movies, the way I thought it would go, and maybe this is how it went, you guys probably did a better job than arguing than us, but Liz gave it to us anyway, so...
That's what I choose to believe, so...
Here's the thing. Let me explain this. So I was very clear, I don't really like Back to the Future, not really versed in it. I really like Terminators. But here's the ultimate thing. Killer robots, we are fucked, okay? It's just a fact. The T-1000...
See how impartial she is?
The T-1000 needed a T-800 of its own kind. It needed some badass, tactical woman, and it needed a kid as bait to take out, and barely then did they make it out of alive. Tweedledee and Tweedledum are not gonna win this. I'm sorry.
The paragon of impartiality.
Clearly.
Well, you did a great job representing your side, Claire and Rafael. Rafael, congrats on your second ever win, dude.
I know. I just, if this were a batting average in the major leagues, I'd start getting into AAA here.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Dan and Kit, excellent job. One might even say a better job than I did. And I will leave my thoughts on this match at that.
Time for the Kit thanks. Over to Twitter. Thank you to Jake, the fake, Jake, Vander Turner, Icon Jade, now with twice the animosity, Cosplay Fiend, Cosplay Devotee, Florian, CJ, Jeff Rick Present, Sean Boyd, Robert Ramsey, Earth Mofo in the house, A Funny Trick to Play on God, Cool Down Now, and Roop Boop, who did some pretty awesome crime. They were at an AT&T store that was playing some stupid Islamophobic shit on their TV, so they opened every phone there, started new Castbox accounts, and subscribed to our show, along with 3 actually good podcasts, but thank you. Over to Tumbles. Thank you to Secretly a Skeleton, Changing Shades, Ultra Anonymous Angel, who dat angel, and Not Very Bright Raven, caw. Over to Facebook. Thank you to Adam Mayo, Jeffrey Ketchum, and Jeff Polier. Also... on Gmail, Grayson Leal apparently still listens to us after all these years. He sent us a really sweet email along with his anniversary question. Thank you, Grayson. Thanks for hanging in there. I don't know how you do it.
And thanks also to Harry Tufts, who was our featured patron in this particular episode. He was I guess an off-screen character that the T-1000 yelled at as he was attempting to ambush Doc and Marty. Is that right, Liz?
Yes. He was the T-1000. Well, no, yeah. He was the T-1000's friend, quote unquote, who he probably killed to turn into the police officer.
Harry Tuff's best friend of the T-1000, because he's a patron of ours over at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast, gets included in our storylines, and gets a lot of other things. One other thing you get is if you are a patron of ours at the $10 a month level for 3 months, you get the opportunity to dictate a match to us. And this very match was dictated to us by, let me check my notes, Harry Tuffs. Interesting.
Dude,
he
the
was the
stars
featured
aligned.
patron in his own episode. And that was not intentional on our part. That's just the way it worked. Yeah, he told us the list of matches that he wanted. We decided to go with this one. He even helped Liz design the lightning round, which was delightful. I also did want to say, in another weird aligning of the stars, this match was also suggested to us by a completely different person, David Warrenfeltz. So thanks to everyone for all the alchemy that came into bringing this together.
Yeah.
And thanks also to Rafael. Rafael, you're a mainstay. You're a real trooper. I will watch any number of sequels with you in it. I don't know. I was trying to pull some kind of, parallel, but it was very painful. Do you have anything you would like to tell our listeners about that they might be interested in?
Yes. Unfortunately, as may make in the episode, life has been a little busy, so I've not had a whole lot of new projects, but you can still find some of my acting projects online at borderlandsmedia.com. I, along with my lovely wife, are in the First Lady Belladonna anthology, which features the film Perfect, in which my wife is being stalked by a pig-masked serial killer, and I am the dead body that gets to be the dead body. Plot point to which the rest of the action kicks off. And additionally, I am in the sequel, Lady Belladonna's Tales from the Inferno, where I play a monochrome in skin tone Ed Wood in hell, and I have the falsies and everything. Additionally, some of my voice acting can be found on YouTube. I've mentioned it in previous episodes, so you can go and check them out there.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, we have Surprise Party!
Smash Fiction is produced by Dan Mulcairn, with logo design by Claire Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
I made a change to my lightning rounds. They're wholesome and not dirty anymore. No tongues, no Hannah Montana. So wholesome and happy are they. That's it.